Hello and welcome to FinextraTV. I'm Alex Lippic and you join us at this Diebold Nixdorf Intersect Cannes 2026 event. And kindly joining me in the studio today is Sekou Kaaland of US Bank, Managing Senior Executive Director. It's a pleasure to have you here, Sekou, and what an excellent event to be a part of.
Oh, glad to be a part of it, and thank you for having me here.
Absolute pleasure. We're going to be discussing managing that evolving customer journey. So on that note, how can banks serve multiple customer needs and not lose quality at the same time, do you think?
I think it has to start with intentionality about what you're ultimately going to deliver based on the client's needs. I think sometimes we often will default to the client needs it quickly, so let's focus on speed. Well, speed doesn't necessarily equate delivery in the way the customer wants a service or product delivered. So I think being very clear on the objectives, right? What is this in service to, right? If the customer is trying to do a specific transaction, what are those friction points? What's the added opportunity to get them to think deeply about other products and services, or just generally deliver what they're asking for? And so I think having a clear view from the outset of what you're delivering through the lens of the customer will shape how you build processes and how you ultimately leverage technology to operate in an efficient and effective way.
Which leads me beautifully onto my next question. Should banks move away from that sort of one-size-fits-all approach, do you think, and define more niche services as a result?
There's always complexity in that question, because you want a degree of customization, so the customer does feel like it's about their journey, but you also have to do things at scale. And so it's a hybrid approach. What are some of those things that can be clearly customizable with small nuances for a customer, but what are some of the other things that you want to be more specific and, let's say, around advice and insight and have a human engagement? So it's understanding or defining moments that may matter in different ways for a customer, and then deploying whether it's your technology or your thought power behind how you're going to have your bank show up in those moments, based on, again, if you're doing it at scale and what are unique or nuanced moments. So the answer is both, because it's hybrid, customize where you can at scale being the key term, and show up in the best possible way with advice and guidance and judgment when you can, in the human terms, to your employees.
Really interesting insight. We've touched on that customer journey. Where do you think banks should focus more their attention on, retail or smaller businesses, would you say?
Yeah, so again, in this particular case, it is definitely a both. It depends on your product and offering. So as I think about the lens of US Bank, yes, I do have 13 million consumer clients and 1.4 million small business clients. But there's intersectionality. That small business client can become a consumer client, a wealth client, a payments client. So you have to service that client knowing that there's opportunity for them to consume more of the broader product set of the franchise. So if you overly focus, now if you're just focused on consumer and that's where your capabilities are, that's a different story. But that same consumer client, I could go in the reverse, can become a small business client, so if you only say, hey, I'm going to look at client type only, then you may miss the mark to see where opportunities to service that client more deeply. For instance, that business owner may be selling the business, right? If I had conversations with them about wealth before, then I've earned the right to at least compete for their business. If they sell the business and I never talk to them about wealth, someone else has been calling them about wealth opportunities. So I think you have to look at the client, look at the broader journey, and not choose. I'm privileged to lead branch and small business banking, and I have just as much passion for both the consumer and the small business.
Passion, I think, is the key word there, and it sounds like there's an awful lot to it under the surface. So everybody has a different demographic, of course, but it's been really interesting talking to you, and I want to thank you so much for your time, Sekou, and I look forward to the next one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.